Hi, everyone. I want to thank, of course, Eric and Charles and everybody who's put this together. Really excited to see all of you and to really see these ideas take flight. So a little bit about me. So we got slides action here. I'm the co-founder and CEO of a company called Dropbox. Do we have Dropbox users in here? Oh, my God. Awesome. If you don't have Dropbox, ask the person on your left, and you'll get some free space. They'll get some free space. It'll all be great. Dropbox is basically a really easy way for people to share files across their computers and with other people. We got started out of Boston in 2007, Y Combinator funding. Moved out here that fall and raised some seed money from Sequoia and raised money from Sequoia and Excel since. I want to cover some of the things that are a little bit unusual about our experience. So one thing that's been really fortunate is we started out with about 100,000 users at our public launch, and that's grown pretty quickly to many millions in about 18 months. And we did this largely, we ran experiments, but by and large, our customer acquisition methods have no cost besides the cost of servicing free users. And just as far as our business model, we have a free 2 gigabyte account, and you can just go to Dropbox.com and try it out. And if you need more space, you can buy it. Something that's a little unusual about us, we have client software. So there's a pretty high friction activation step where you have to download and install. And so that's something that, it's not like the typical web application where you can be done in a second or two. And as I'll talk about, we had a ton of competitors and still do, especially back in the time frame around 2006, 2007. And the team is extremely engineering heavy. Through the first 2 years of the company's life, we didn't have anybody who had the title, had the word marketing in their title. So everybody's really focused on product engineering. So what I want to talk about, just run through a couple of quick stories about how either by accident or on purpose, we applied some of the lean startup principles at Dropbox. And so like one of the first sort of things that every founder is vexed with is the question of, when do we launch our product? And what was challenging for me, and like many kind of startup-related questions, you have really smart people saying the opposite thing. So Paul Graham, who is our first investor at Y Combinator, it's like just launch early, launch often. And then you have other people like Joel Spolsky talking about big venture-backed companies that launched a product and it wasn't ready yet and it sucked, and basically they just spent millions of dollars educating everybody about how bad their product was. So opinions are all over the map. But so the context that we were going in with is that we had just tons and tons of cloud storage companies that we were competing against or that existed before we did. And you'd have these TechCrunch and Mashable articles that were like the online storage roundup, and it'd be a list of like 90 companies. It was really bizarre. I had a lot of interesting conversations with investors that are like, okay, like why do we need like yet another storage company? And my question was, well, do you use any of them? And they'd always be like, no. And I was like, okay, well, that's kind of interesting, right? So. One thing that I spent the bulk of my 20s figuring out is that building a bulletproof, reliable, scalable, cross-platform cloud storage system is really, really hard. And the reason I'm here is because I tried everything else that was out there. All of them kind of fell apart on different things, or just didn't work with big files, or didn't work with big numbers of files, or only did a piece of what I wanted. You have sort of scare stories like, these apps that were had just launched that would then destroy all of your files, and needless to say, that's not what you're looking for. So we reframed the launch question as instead of thinking about, okay, we should launch early or launch late, we have to learn about our target audience as soon as possible, and is there something of interest here? And what I came up with, more out of necessity than being deliberate about thinking through it, was, okay, there's just absolutely no way, like a month or two in, that I can actually put working code in people's hands, because if anything goes wrong, it's really going to be a problem. But I do have a working prototype. I can show the product, sort of a snapshot of the product in its best light, in like a 3-minute video that sort of gets the big idea across of the experience, and it's really just me doing a walkthrough of what is Dropbox, how it works, how the interface is really simple. You just hit save, and the file saves to all of your computers, and so on. And I had just submitted my Y Combinator application, and as sort of a gambit to get Paul Graham's attention, I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to submit this video to Hacker News, and God help me, I hope it works. And what was really great is over the next couple of days, I got just dozens and dozens of really smart people that commented about it and gave me about the same feedback that I would have gotten if I had actually put the code in their hands, but it was a lot less work for me. And so that was that was really exciting for me because here I am, making this video in my boxers in my apartment in Cambridge, and suddenly people from all over the world are like really excited about it. So, and that kicked things off. It got the Y Combinator folks' attention, and those played a role in our funding. While you're waiting to actually put something in people's hands, you definitely want to at least capture their interest, right? So, if you can convince someone to actually, come in the front door, at least give them a way, or at least have a way of capturing their intent, and so that you can talk to them later. Sounds like an obvious point, but a lot of the little things really matter if you're doing some kind of closed beta. This video tactic works so well that we sort of repurposed it to in a kind of form of guerrilla marketing. So what we did was, so I remember what it was like being 17 and like reading Slashdot every day, and the Dig crowd has some similarities. And what we did is we sort of made the same kind of demo video, but we're like, okay, the first people that we're going to need to reach are these early adopters, right? People that seek out technology for technology's sake. They just love trying the latest thing. And what we did was it was sort of the same kind of video, but we included all these Easter eggs that appealed to that audience. So we made references to Obama and XKCD and Tay Zonde, the Chocolate Rain song, Office Space. I mean, there are like dozens of things that we put in there. So even if you think the product sucks, you at least thought it was funny that you saw something about a TPS report or something. And it was just unbelievable. We put the video online, and within a few hours, we're getting 200 signups for the waiting list a second, like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people visiting the site in a day. And I remember the night before, we were at Pasta Pomodoro in North Beach, and we're like, let's place some bets on what our waiting list will get to. And we were like 5,000 people, and we're like, okay, maybe it'll get to like 10,000. And someone was like 15,000. We're like, it's bullshit. We're never gonna get to 15,000. And by the end of the next day, we got 75,000 people on the waiting list, and the video got 12,000 digs, and it's probably the most dug startup link ever, which was pretty remarkable. But the sort of meta point is not to go make a video and try to put it on Dig. It was that we were making a product for ourselves, and because we were early adopters, and we knew where these kinds of people would hang out, we were able to communicate in an authentic way with that audience and get people excited. But needless to say, this was an extremely promising turn of events for us, because all startups kind of grapple with this critical mass problem, which we were lucky enough to solve in one day. So Y Combinator's motto is make something people want, and I think I think a lot of the other speakers have talked about this, so I won't belabor it here, but your biggest risk is spending all this time and effort and money making something, and then it doesn't resonate with the people, or it doesn't resonate the way you hope it would. So we sort of got out of jail free with not actually shipping code. It's kind of funny. I remember I had this on my whiteboard. I was going to ship 8 weeks, or actually my Y Combinator application, I said, we're going to ship something that people will pay for in 8 weeks. And it ended up being 18 months till we actually launched a product publicly. So never underestimate the founder's optimism. But this process of sort of finding a minimum viable product that for us was a video, for other people might be like AdWords or fake screenshots or landing pages, whatever it takes, there is no excuse for not getting the best possible understanding of your customers as early as possible. Put something in users' hands, and then for us, again, we were making a product for ourselves. We were early adopters, so we knew how to communicate with those kinds of people. That served us really well. So fast forward, it's September 2008, and we're like, okay, it's time to become a real company. We're going to launch the product, and the stuff that we did in our living room to kind of launch that video on Dig is we really have to grow up now. So like a lot of startups sort of faced with this dilemma, you're like, all right, well, what do most web companies do, right? It's like, okay, first we applied to TechCrunch 50 and we got in. So we have our big launch, our big bang launch planned. That's good. Then we need to buy some AdWords and probably then like hire a PR firm or VP marketing or something, but we need to do it because we're like amateurs. And so forget all these like wonderful no-cost things that we were doing to like get out to hundreds of thousands of people. Now we have to get real marketing people involved. So we ran a bunch of experiments with paid, different kinds of paid customer acquisition drivers, and got a really talented, really expensive marketing guy to help us out. And we sort of went through the motions. We made our landing pages. We picked our keywords and so on. Launched it, and had some awesome results where our cost per acquisition was between $233 and $388 for a $99 product. So, not great. And this was one of several things that we tried on the paid acquisition front, where we're like, look, Mozy, Carbonite, or whoever the other storage guys were all buying keywords left and right. The problem was the keywords that had any volume were all bidded up probably by other venture-backed startups. So, bad situation. And a number of other problems with it. All the scaffolding and engineering effort we put into supporting this sort of steering people to a paid-only sort of trial of the product as opposed to a free product just caused a lot of problems. So at the end of the day, 3 or 4 of these experiments canned all of them. But what was puzzling was, we were just, the stuff we were doing on the marketing side wasn't going that well, but we put a ton of effort into the product, and we still had like awesome user growth and just a really enthusiastic community. So what's going on, and that's going to be the next thing I talk about. But sort of the broader point is when you sort of go from being in sort of stealth mode or whatever, and sort of in the heads down, building, when you sort of lift your head above the water, you feel tempted to do all these things the conventional way because like everybody else does them. But it's really important to think from first principles with whatever you do. But the one thing that saved us was that we put all of our effort into making something that we wanted to use, that we thought was really good, that was really reliable, that just worked, and wasn't confusing, and what we saw as an elegant solution to the problem. We worked our asses off, and we hired the smartest people we knew, which don't deserve to be footnotes in a 15-minute talk like this, but just to give some context. And also, the power of focus is really important. So, we never, if you make a feature matrix of like Dropbox versus all the other things out there, we're never going to come out in front because we want to just really do a few things well as opposed to a lot of things kind of well or presented in a way that's confusing. So as a byproduct of doing maybe 1 or 2 things really, really well and spending all your time on those, you leave a lot of other things out, right? So didn't have a lot of business people, we were terrible at getting mainstream PR even compared to some of our Y Combinator peers. So there's no like New York Times articles or Wall Street Journal articles about us. We got a lot of tech press, which was great. And we sort of running fast and loose, just hired really smart people and just sort of get things out the door, or only put things out the door if they're really good. So we were not exactly the most predictable engineering organization. 8 weeks, 18 months, a little bit of a disparity. And also another thing that we sort of dipped our toes in was partnerships and biz dev, because we're like, oh, it'd be great to have all these OEM partners that ship Dropbox, and we'll get on millions and millions and millions of computers. It'll be awesome. But it really turned out we would always get close and then burn a ton of cycles and always end up being disappointing. So after a couple of rounds of these discussions, we're just like, the hell with it. We're just going to keep doing what we're doing and really focus on just making our users happy and not trying to do a million things at once. Okay, so now here we are. Things are going well, but all the things we're deliberately doing to spread the product around are like horrible failures. So like, what's happening? Like, why is our marketing department not doing too well, even though we're somehow able to get the word out? And it sort of dawned on us after talking to enough users, it's like, okay, Dropbox is kind of there are things that are kind of like it, but the average person doesn't wake up in the morning and they're like, God, I hate carrying around a USB drive. Like, that's just the way computers work, right? But So the upshot of that being, like, nobody's looking for something that solves a problem that people,